well, first of all, we're starting to get close on time. So I just want to ask you guys if you could be brief on your answers on this one, because we still have a couple of audience questions that we need to get to before we tie it up. And if you do have questions, audience, now's the time to start typing them, because we're going to get to them in just a minute. Like I said, we have a couple of them queued up, but what is your best piece of cybersecurity advice that you want to share with the audience? This is sort of, what do you want to leave them with? And since Dave's been talking quite a bit, we'll start with Adam on this one.
So Dave's going to fight me on this, but I would say the best cybersecurity advice is to know your risk tolerance first and foremost. Building your cybersecurity plan, starting with that risk tolerance, helps you set the baseline for what you can handle from a loss perspective if you were to have a cybersecurity incident. You focus too much on one area and you could be missing a completely unseen avenue of approach or vulnerable spot. So evaluating where the company stands today, what's at stake, and what the company is willing to invest to reduce that risk profile, that's where you need to start.
Dave?
Yeah, and I don't even need to fight. I can just simply agree. I absolutely agree, right? I've said this multiple times. Understanding that risk tolerance is important, and I hope you guys can understand that. If we're all saying this and we're all agreeing on this, I think that's a pretty big critical step to take. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it as that. Just understand your risk tolerance as well.
All right. Well, that being said, we have a third question, and they're kind of related, so I'm going to mix the two together. We got one ahead of time that says, do you have an example of implementing SDN in a brownfield site that required a phase transition, and what did it look like? We just talked through that, and we can go a little bit more. I'm actually going to jump over to a backup slide in a minute for this one. But the other one is, with the size and complexity of most legacy networks, can a phased approach be used? So those are, I think, both very related to each other. And like I said, we just went through an example. We actually, with our partner Dynex, just last week, they did a brownfield one where they were working with a company, a manufacturing company that just, they transitioned over a cell because they wanted to try it on one cell before they did that. But Adam, I'm going to jump over this slide here and let you talk through this a little bit about how you might deploy into a brownfield network and do a phased-in transition.
Yeah, so when you're deploying, and this is something that you can kind of plan out ahead of time, even like with your lifecycle replacement of switches, you can be considering any future switches to be replaced and verifying that they can actually work. But you can start at the core. You can start at a distribution layer. You do not necessarily have to do every switch down the chain to be able to get benefit out of having the SDN. If you have the core and distribution layer and you've replaced maybe 5-6 switches, that will cover probably 80 to 90% of your communications across your facility. So that would be the strong recommendation, would be to start at the top, because even just doing a core switch, you will have a lot of cross traffic across all of the things, and you will be able to protect a lot of communications just with that all by itself. Now, if you wanted to, you could also start at the cell level. So if you wanted to start at a line, you could replace just a line switch, and you wanted to see how it worked with minimal impact, you could replace that line switch and go from there. So, I mean, there's a few different options, but I would say definitely taking advantage of your life cycle replacement schedule, and knowing what that looks like, especially for the equipment that is end of life and has been end of life for a long time. I know a lot of facilities have a lot of equipment that is far older than it should be, still doing what it needs to be doing. So looking at that's going to be probably your best focus.
If I could add a couple of point to that, Adam, is we didn't really talk about this earlier, but I think one of the key aspects that we were also looking for in an SDN solution was the ability to do kind of a hybrid solution. And so there are tools out there today that will not work with a traditional network and SDN solution. It has to be one or the other. And that was a big value to us, and I think that's a value that Veracity brings to the table, is you can do this architecture where you can still have, if you so choose, to have traditional VLANs below with your different lines, with your different cells, and yet still use SDN above, and the Veracity solution supports passing those VLAN tags and understanding how that traffic communicates. And so understanding when you look at tools is if you can do a hybrid mode is really critical to know too.